Foreclosure Mastery. What's up, guys? Zach in here, and in today's video, I want to break down a presentation I did about pre-foreclosures for wholesaling real estate. I give away literally thousands of dollars of a pre-foreclosure mastery course absolutely for free here, guys. I give my heart and soul out explaining the entire pre-foreclosure process. There's so many profits, there's so many more pre-foreclosures, and so many more people delinquent on their mortgages going out there right now. I'm telling you right now, this is the perfect time to get into pre-foreclosures. The thing is, when you deal with sellers with pre-foreclosures, you're really gonna have to understand the process. And in this video, I really break down the entire pre-foreclosure process so you understand it, and most importantly, how you can explain it to your sellers. Before we get into it, do me a huge favor and smash the like button and subscribe, and let's break it down. Let's kind of get into the ultimate pre-foreclosure guide. This is exciting. So remember, guys, you got questions, you let me know. I'm always here to help, and let's get it going. So let's break down pre-foreclosures. Now, let's get into the boring definitions just so I can tell you how to do it. Let's get it going. So number one here, let's kind of break this down of if you're starting this business and you want to know, what is a pre-foreclosure? Basically, the legal jargon for this is basically a pre-foreclosure is the first process of the foreclosure process. The best way I can remember this or think about this when I was starting out is a foreclosure, pre-foreclosure. Basically, you guys know you have, when you go get a loan at the bank and you have a mortgage, right? If you stop paying that mortgage, there is certain clauses in there basically saying the bank can get their money back, right? They can take the house away, things like so. This is basically more or less the foreclosure process. The pre-foreclosure process, if I can sum it up in a sentence, is basically it's kind of the scary notice to the person that's saying, hey, you better pay up now. We're going to give you like 3 or 4 months. If not, we're just taking the house over. And that's the scary part. So let's kind of break it. So pre-foreclosure is the first process of the foreclosure process. A pre-foreclosure refers to the first phase of a legal proceeding that ultimately can conclude in a property being repossessed from a default borrower. The lender, usually the bank, files a notice of default on the property in pre-foreclosure because the borrowing owner exceeds their contractual terms for delinquent payments. Remember, what I have honestly seen is in every state, I'm going to say this off the bat here, every state's different with pre-foreclosure, but most of them have federal guidelines of around 120 days until a notice of default or a list pendants is done on the property until they actually start the foreclosure process. I've seen around 120 days or roughly 3 to 4 missed payments. Roughly, that's what each state could be different. But for most states, that's where it's at. Remember, guys, if a homeowner is late on a certain number of payments, the lender may issue a notice of default, sending the home into pre-foreclosure. Just remember, guys, the mortgage borrowers may still have options during pre-foreclosure to save their home. Kind of like what we're going to talk about today to actually help the people out, right? We're going to help these sellers out. You can get out of pre-foreclosure, usually by selling the house or giving just paying back the back payments because it is expensive to do the process for the bank. A lender is obligated to go through a court proceeding to finalize a foreclosure eviction notice. That's the biggest issue I've seen people talk about with banks. So that's why they just want you to pay it back. I don't think they care too much. Remember, guys, some lenders will make back payments to get out of pre-foreclosure. So they'll let you get out of it, some of them, but some of them don't. It really depends. And this is sort of what we're understanding. Pre-foreclosure is going to be an interesting process. There's so much great motivation with it. And this brings us back to, why pre-foreclosures work for wholesaling, why us real estate wholesalers love pre-foreclosures. Number one is these sellers are in highly motivated situations. They need our help. We are here to help them out. But you got to remember this too. I'm going to say this so many times, and this is the truth. We're here to help the seller out, even if that doesn't mean that us helping them will get us paid. I've said this a million times, and I will say it 4 billion more times. If I have a seller who's in a pre-foreclosure situation, I can make 10K on the deal, but I know in my heart of hearts, it's probably best if they just list the property or they are in a good situation where they can get a loan mod or a personal loan from a friend. I'm happier if I can help them out in that situation, not get paid, than anything else. So I have seen it where doing that, I've gotten paid more than not.
So always do what's best for the seller. It will come back to you 10 times. I'm not going to get in the karma debate or anything like that, but that's what I can tell you. Remember, these sellers are not like the typical motivated seller we've seen. Pre-foreclosure sellers are a different breed. I can tell you this. They are a different type of seller. We need to qualify and help them. There is huge problems going on in these sellers' lives. These aren't like your tired landlord just wants to get rid of it. There's huge issues, so much motivation, a lot of drama. Just know that off the bat. Remember, guys, there's going to be huge paydays if you can get this done right. Extreme motivation, and they're really great lists. So much motivation, especially in your quote unquote saturated market. Now, this brings us back to the next part here, where there is a ton of competition. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. In pre-foreclosures, if you are in a decent sized market, there's a ton of competition for pre-foreclosures. It's, in my opinion, very easy to beat these other sellers, especially when there's a lot of competition, with the right marketing and acquisition skills that I'm going to show you later today. All you got to do is pay $9.99 to learn them. Just kidding. No, I'm going to give it all for free. That's a joke. I like making fun of gurus. Deal with it. Remember, guys, with pre-foreclosure sellers, in my experience, these sellers will lie to you. They will procrastinate. They are going to be very emotional in this process. So you're going to have to show empathy and care about the seller. Remember too, guys, if I can give you one word of what makes someone really successful with a pre-foreclosure or not, it's going to be speed. Speed getting a contract signed. Speed getting in front of that seller right when the pre-foreclosure gets hit. Speed on getting the closing done as soon as possible. I'm telling you, speed. Speed is going to be essential for getting success in this business, and especially for pre-foreclosures. So I'm going to give a couple seconds for you guys to screenshot this. We made this graphic here, and this is pretty much the closest thing I could say to the entire foreclosure process, the pre-foreclosure process. I don't see many people make graphics for this, so I had to go spend some time Sunday making this before the Super Bowl, just making sure it looks all fancy. I'm not the best at graphics, but try to make it in my, brain, my simple brain here. What could make this process simple? So let's bring it back from left to right. That's how I like to think of processes. So number one here on the pre-foreclosure process, we're going to be in a pre-foreclosure. What is this? This is basically when the seller misses one payment, two payments, three payments. This is really where we're going to be at. So when the seller misses a payment, they're not automatically in pre-foreclosure. Like I said, it takes 3 or 4 missed payments, usually 120 days. So before that 120 days, let's say you miss one payment, maybe you forgot it, right? You're probably going to get a friendly, possibly a friendly letter from the bank. We don't know how friendly it's going to be, but every bank's different. But really nothing's going to happen. Hey, you missed your couple payments. Your payment's past due. You're 2 months, 3 months. If you don't do it, we're going to do a process foreclosing on you. You're going to get different type of letters. And this is the pre-foreclosure. Nothing happens at all. Like there's no legal proceedings, anything like that. What I can tell you is the sellers really don't care at this point. Oh, I missed the payment and nothing bad happened. Well, I'm just keep missing payments, right? Usually a lot of people do that. So I'll tell you that's number one. Next here is the official pre-foreclosure. This is step number 2 here. Usually we're 120 days. What the bank does, usually they hire a lawyer to do this, or they got lawyers there. They kind of do what we call a notice of default. So a notice of default is going to be basically a publicly recorded document, basically saying, hey, this person's in default, and they're basically filing public documents, maybe a lis pendens, basically a fancy term for a legal action being taken, and they're starting the process of doing it. Sometimes it's like 45 days after that default is put in, and then boom, the foreclosure date is there. There's an auction, things like that. But what I can tell you, sometimes in like states like Florida and Texas, it's really fast. Some states in like California, Illinois, it's a lot slower. It really depends, especially with the panoramic that's going on. Yes, I know I said that name wrong, but I'm not getting flagged from the algorithm. Things have been really funky with pre-foreclosure state by state. Sometimes it's going to be 6 months. I know people that have been sort of in a pre-foreclosure for, 24 months, right? Every state, city, municipality, sheriff, sale, eviction's different. Most places, they're basically ready to go. And there's no issue with it. So right here, we have a pre-foreclosure, and then boom, let's skip the middle one really quick. And then we got the auction date set. Basically, an auction date is set that the property is going to go up for auction. The bank wants their money, and then they'll sell to the highest bidder. And then boom, when the auction date happens, it's a foreclosure auction, or if the bank doesn't get the money they want, it'll be REO, which basically is a bank-owned property. And then they basically get an agent. They have an asset manager, all that fun jazz. I'm telling you right now, the period that we're really focused on where we're doing our work is in between the pre-foreclosure and that auction date. The auction date is going to be March 1st. This is January 1st. The time between that, I kind of coined this. People have probably said this before. I'm calling this the wholesaling window of time. This is the window where us as real estate wholesalers can actually go out here and do the deal. Like, we have a certain period where we can actually get this pre-foreclosure deal done. And this is right when that notice of default usually happens and when that foreclosure date happens. So the window of time for wholesaling, remember guys, this is going to be the time for us to actually market the deal, sign an actual contract with the seller, assign that contract to a cash buyer, and get the property sold before that auction date is set. This is also a time where we can do a short sale. This is not going to be a short sale video. This is a wholesaling pre-foreclosures. Wholesaling short sales is another ball of wax I don't even go into today. Okay, like that is a separate video. That's its own dragon we can get to, especially when the market starts getting a little more turbulent. We can talk about it. Short sales really not going to be something we should be focusing on, especially in this market. Now, let's say we're outside this window of time. We didn't do anything, or the seller doesn't do anything. The auction date's set. It's not the end of the world for wholesaling, but just understand once that auction date is set, it's a lot harder to save that deal. I'm going to show you how to save the deal. And you're almost in the foreclosure process, almost out of pre-foreclosure once an auction date's set. Just understand that. And then boom, you got the foreclosure auction or REO. What I want to explain here is, this is not the most fun thing to say, but like, your seller, the biggest chance if you do marketing and this a pre-foreclosure lead, they will literally call you at the 11th hour. Okay, I've seen this so many times. When you're cold calling pre-foreclosures or you're talking to pre-foreclosure sellers and they're like in la la land and they don't want to deal with you, they will contact you 3 days before the auction. Like, that is when they go and decide to talk to you. These sellers, they don't want to hear it. They tell them, hey, you're in a pre-foreclosure, you're going to lose the house. It's like, la, 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 I can't hear you. Everything's fine in my life. You got to remember, I'm saying this in the most respectful way. If you're in a pre-foreclosure, something probably happened with you that you decided not to deal with the payments or decided not to actually, pay the loan out. And you're probably in a situation where you're either procrastinating the payments, you're in a situation where you don't want to deal with it, or you're just ignoring it. And most sellers don't want to deal with that at all. They would rather wait until the end to even deal with you. So they will most likely call you 3 to 7 days where there's really not much for us to do. It's disheartening. You want to go scream at the seller, say, why are you talking to me now? Why do you talk to me like 2 months from now? Well, they have la la land in their head. They're going to get a loan modification. They're going to get that brand new job. They're going to win the lottery. Everything's going to be fine. A lot of people have that mindset with pre-foreclosure. It's not a good mindset. But a lot of people, I got this taken care of. I don't need it. I don't need to deal with you, right? A lot of these sellers are going to get less money with the auction than if they actually dealt with us. So it's pretty important we go help them out. But what I'll tell you is most sellers are going to call you when it's too late. So understand that. So basically, that auction date, the auction date's set, sheriff's sale, they're going to go knock, knock, knock. We're evicting you. Actually, there's going to be an auction date. Auction date's going to be, I don't know, March 1st or whatever, or let's say June 1st. And it gets bidded to the highest bidder. Most of the time, the bank just wants to sell the house for what's owed at the minimum. So the opening bid's usually like, if you're behind 100K on the payments and you have like 20K in equity, and like, let's say the house is worth 140, the minimum auction bid is going to be 100K just because the bank wants their money back, right? So usually if they can't get that opening bid, they're just going to the bank's just going to keep it themselves in REO. And basically, they're going to bank-owned property, they're going to deal with realtors, and they're just going to sell it. And that's what they do. Those are hard wholesaling deals to do. That's for just separate video also. Not the biggest fan of them. They used to work back in the good old days, but not the best right now. So we have to also understand this, and I don't want to get too complicated in this process, but if you can see here, some states, most states have this. If you see the asterisk on the bottom, see redemption periods by states. There's a thing called a redemption period, and a lot of sellers actually have a lot of rights when they're in pre-foreclosure. Some states like Illinois, some parts kind of in the Northeast, Northwest, you can actually redeem the property back within 6 months of it being auctioned off. So if you auction it off and someone buys it, and if someone has the money within 6 months to go get the house back, they can just take the house back. Even if the person who bought the foreclosure auction, even if that person renovated the house, they get the house back. So redemption period's risky. A lot of states are not fun with that. So just understand that's something your cash buyer has to understand. But it's interesting. Tax sales have that. It's kind of interesting. So some of them have them. I know like Texas. I'll actually just pop. I can pop this up. I kind of had this up right here on redemption periods. Let's see here. Let me show you this. And all right. So this is actually let's go share this really quick, just so you can see what redemption periods are sort of looking like. This isn't going to be the full video. We'll skip through this really quick. But these are kind of like what, basically for foreclosures, what the redemption period looks like. And these kind of have the codes on them and everything. I'll go put this in the comments for you guys to see. It'll actually show the state statute, stuff like that. Just so you can see when redemption periods. I know Texas, I don't think they even have one. Let me look here. Alabama, it says 1 year to preserve the right. Alaska says none. Arizona, 6 months. Wait, for less common judicial foreclosure. It really does depend. Each one's going to basically do it. Delaware's got none. Florida, yes, but the later the court clerk of the filings specified in the judgment. So it's kind of with a court's discretion. Hawaii, let's see, 3 business days. See, they get 3 business days before the sale. And there's more legal, like you got to read up on your state. Like Massachusetts doesn't have one. Michigan's kind of the roughest one. They have 30 days to a year, depending on the factors. I know if it has more acreage, it'll actually be longer. Nebraska doesn't have one. Missouri, it's a year if the mortgage holder is the purchaser. It really depends. New Hampshire, none. You gotta go look at it. North Dakota, 60 days and 365 for agricultural land. And this is basically, you got Virginia, Wisconsin, Wyoming, Washington State, West Virginia, Wyoming, 3 months. So really look it up. These are the state statutes kind of breaking it down. And I want you to re-look at them because they change all the time. But those are basically the redemption periods. And those are in the comments. You can go check that out and see. So that's what a redemption period is. Just understand your cash buyer should know this. But you do want to kind of, hey, this is a pre-foreclosure. And then some of the states depends. So if it's a pre-foreclosure, you're fine. The redemption period is basically if they buy it from an auction. But every state's different. So redemption period is not really too interesting for a pre-foreclosure. But if it isn't a foreclosure and you somehow wholesale this on an auction, or you buy it from an auction, want to sell it back or something, just understand that. So this gets to the next question, probably the most popular one. How do I actually find these leads, right? Another huge thing why I love it is these leads are actually, you can get them for free. Now you can also, obviously, if you have prop stream batch leads, if you have smszac.com or listrei.com, you need to just click a button and pull them, right? Pretty simple. But the reason why I like it so much is we got no money. This is a great hustler list because you can get it for free. And that's why I like it so much. You can get it. It's public record. This is kind of the government getting into it, doing this. So the court action, all public stuff. So this is why I love it. So actually, how do you find these pre-foreclosure leads? You usually use public records. Now you just search and filter your public records by notice of default, list pendants, etc. Call the clerk of the court, ask them how you can actually pull this information or ask for it. Go in person. It's going to be great. Listrei.com, aka PropStream. You can actually go out there, pull it pretty simple. smszac.com. I mean, they're both pretty simple to do. Just understand this though, guys, especially in wholesaling real estate in general, but for pre-foreclosures, you have to serve the seller. I cannot say this enough, and I will be screaming about this forever, but you're in service to the seller here. You want to help them out. This isn't, if you're going for your bottom line, actually how to make the most money for yourself. Yes, it sounds like that's the perfect thing to do. It's not. help the seller out and help them out in their specific situation, and you will get paid tenfold than if you did it just for yourself. Because sellers can sense when you actually have true empathy for their situation and actually trying to help them out and legitimately trying to help. Not the, here are your options, and I'm going to tell you why none of them are good except for this one. No, actually break them down with them and actually go through each process and see which one's the best. Remember, you're going to be like a consultant here to these sellers. You're not even going to be like a wholesaler. This is a cool part. Obviously, you're the person that buys properties for cash, but you're going to help the seller out, especially when you reach out to them. Just remember, you're going to be the one that is ready to help the seller. If the seller's best option, guys, I'm going to say this again. If the seller's best option is listing it or renting it out, even if you make $1, help them out. Even if you don't get paid from it, just help the seller out. Hey, you hear me giving stuff out for free, pay it back by doing that, okay? Maybe that's a good deed you can get from today, right? But I'm telling you, if you keep doing that, your seller will notice and you'll get a lot more deals. Remember, guys, you have to have empathy, no sympathy, empathy, actually caring in your heart of hearts of these sellers and their situations. You will have so much more success. If you treat these sellers with compassion and true care, 99% of people, I've only seen about 1% of people have actually no empathy or compassion for people. And that's like 1%. Like, that's a very rare case of a person actually not caring. Everyone's got a mother, everyone's got a family, right? Everyone loves puppies or kittens, right? Like, you gotta have compassion, right? So if you have that, which I know you guys watching, you do have that, you bring that out with the seller. Even if that's something you like to hold your feelings in, you don't have to be emotional with them, but you have to actually understand what they're going through. Put yourself in their shoes. It will change drastically. You have to also ask the seller, you do not want to, the thing is that you do not want to force a situation. If the seller is they want to stay, let them stay. Probably not going to be, just understand that's probably not going to be a good deal for you, but that could be a situation. Now, just let them understand, hey, are you going to be selling this house or staying in it? And that's going to be a pretty good question to ask, because if they want to sell it, then we can go through the options with that. If they want to stay, we can go through those options. If they have no thought of selling it, don't even be offering a cash offer on the property, right? Makes no sense. Remember, guys, you got to care about the sellers. Remember, these sellers will lie to you. A lot of them have pride and ego, which I try to tell you guys to get away from. It will be the end of your business. But what I can tell you is if you get your pride and ego out of it, you're going to do better for yourself. But a lot of these sellers have it. You might door knock and say, hey, Mr. Seller, are you interested in selling your property? And they say, no, I have no interest in selling. Why do you think I would even be possibly want to sell my house? Like, it's pride and ego. They don't even want to deal with it. That's fine, right? On to the next one. They say, hey, I don't want to sell my house. There's no reason to sell. Even if you go, hey, Mr. Seller, I know you're in pre-foreclosure. I want to help you out. They say, I'm not in pre-foreclosure. They have too much pride and ego. They don't want their neighbors hearing you, right? That they don't want to talk about it. Fine. You're not going to change their mind. If someone's got pride or ego in this one, they're just going to say they have it. They're not in the situation. They have it taken care of because they're the boss man or woman, right? Like, you just got to deal with it. So just understand that right off the bat. But you're going to be a problem solver, consultant, whatever you want to call it. This is how we're going to help the seller out. Remember, guys, having compassion, empathy, and speed, this is going to be the most important part for success in this business. If you do not have it, you're not going to have success with this. Remember, guys, so let's kind of break down. When we're talking to a seller, they're going to want to know what options they have. And these are really the options I've seen to help the seller out. The one thing I haven't really put on here is renting the house out, because obviously their PI, their DTI is not going to be too well with that. And I don't think I don't even give that option out, because they could, if they want to save the house and live with somebody, but it's really not a good option. That's not something I'd say I would offer it if they want to, but these aren't big options I would say for pre-foreclosure sellers. The options I've seen is, number one, hey, if you want to sell this house for the most money possible, you got to sell it before the date. If you want to get the most money out of this house, you should list it with a realtor. Now, if this is a good wholesaling deal, I'm going to have an auction date in 2 months and there's just not enough time with loans. This house needs too much work. I don't want to deal with it. Sure. If they understand they want to deal with a realtor, no big deal. Number two, they can file what we call, quote unquote, the veterans like to say BK. I hate that word. I don't know why they say file a BK. It's so confusing. It reminds me of Burger King. I don't like that. But quote unquote, what that means is bankruptcy. They can file bankruptcy, which hurts their credit. It's going to hurt them actually buying another property. Not a good situation. Pre-foreclosure, if your sellers get into it, there is not the end of the world. You can easily get over it. This is like, I'm telling, it's a joke. Like pre-foreclosure, like it's not the end of the world. Like it's not a big scar on your record. A bankruptcy is probably going to destroy your credit, though. I'll tell you this right now. Even pre-foreclosures, it's not going to completely destroy your credit. It ain't going to look good. You're definitely going to have to help your credit out a little more from there, but it's not going to completely destroy it like a bankruptcy or a foreclosure is going to look like on your process, especially underwriting if you get another loan, right? So if you did a pre-foreclosure, but you got out of it, you sold the house, you had plenty of equity, you're good. You're going to look way better. Next here, I know a lot of wholesalers leave that as the last option. But you can say this, I can give you a cash offer on the house with enough equity where you can actually sell the house. You don't have to have this record on you of this foreclosure. You don't go through the stress, evict with the kids. You don't have to file bankruptcy, and it'll give you a pathway to buying another house so you're safe, right? That's pretty good. Cash offer is probably my favorite. That's why we make good deals with wholesaling. But remember, you also do some other stuff. Number 4 is terms. Now, this is a wholesaling real estate video, but I'm a real estate investor, so I will tell you, terms actually might be the best option for the seller. You do a subject to, you do a lease option. If you understand creative financing, I would bring that up. If you do not understand creative financing, probably not an option I would bring up. Write your own options, but look up subject twos of the pre-foreclosures, look up lease options of the pre-foreclosures if they have a lot of equity in the property, which means if they sell the property, they'll probably have some left over of what they owed. So if the property's worth more than what they owe, they definitely have some equity in there. So it could be a good option in terms. My creative finance investors on here too that watch our creative finance stuff, they understand terms is going to be great. Pre-foreclosure is one of the best for terms, but also great for wholesaling. I'm specifically going after these leads for wholesaling real estate. Just so you guys understand that. But remember, that could be an option. Terms, take it over subject to the loan. It really depends what's best for the seller. Most sellers, I'm going to tell you right now, they're going to say that sounds too confusing. I don't want to deal with that. It's too much work, which for a lot of people, it is too much work. So we get sub twos though, like that too all the time. Number 5 is what we call a HELOC. I'm not trying to talk over your head. I'm not trying to talk over your head and make you confused. A HELOC, it basically is short for a home equity line of credit or a homeowner equity line of credit. I am not embarrassed. I don't know the exact definition of it, but it is a home equity. Wait, HELOC stands for home equity line of credit. Okay, yeah, I got that right. So basically, you take out a loan on the equity of the house. So let's say the house is worth $200,000, and you have $50,000 of equity in the house. So if you sold it for $200,000, and that means you had about $150,000 in equity, and it's worth if the property is worth $200,000 and if you have $50,000 in equity, that means you'd probably owe $150,000. Let's say you owe $150,000 on a property worth $200,000. That means if you sold it for $200,000, you would get $50,000. You get a loan out for that $50,000, so you owe $200,000, but you use that $50,000, you got cash for yourself. A lot of creative finance investors do that. A lot of people that have rentals do that. A lot of people actually really enjoy it, and they do it. They do really well with it. Just understand a HELOC, they could get a loan out on the equity they have. If it's a subject to, they won't actually have equity, so it's actually kind of perfect for us wholesalers. But just understand a home equity line of credit sometimes can be kind of confusing. It actually might not be the best option for the seller. So it's definitely up to you which they want to do. Remember, that's it's a mess of a situation. Someone can get a loan modification, which I'll put in the loan category, where they can modify the loan and actually maybe have the back payments in the end of it. What I've seen is, you can look this up, most loan modifications have like a 70% failure rate. Don't quote me on this, but it's an extremely high rate of failure. And so that's an option. They might say, hey, I'm just going to get a loan modification. Most of you guys are going to fail at that, especially during these times, but hey, maybe you get it. There's some certain clauses you can actually put in your contract, which you can actually get over this objection, which I'm excited to share. And this is part of the $1,000 course you paid, right, to go see this. So it's in there. Number 6 here is another option they have is they can wait it out. Oh, I need more time. You can just wait it out for 2 months and maybe you win the lottery, right? Number 7, which is another option they have that no one really talks about, but this is an option I like to put in sellers' heads so they actually get the gravity of the situation, especially if they have a family, right? I'm not telling people how to live their lives, but this is a scary situation. But this is where I call the write it out. Go through the entire process and being evicted. Wait until the auction date gets set, maybe April 1st. Have the sheriff knock on your door April 2nd, kick you and your family out, throw your belongings out in the street, and you go find a place from there out of a hotel room. You could write it out all day you want. You can do that too. You can get less money when it goes to auction than with a cash offer most of the time. And there's a lot of unknowns, and maybe it turns into a REO, which basically the bank's going to own it, and then you basically don't know what you're going to get in equity. Maybe they sell it really quick for a cash sale, fire sale, and even less than I'm going to offer you. It depends on what you want to do and what situation you want from there. That's what I've seen. Usually people don't like that, but those are the options. They could also rent it out. I'm not a big fan of saying that. I've never had a seller be okay with that. Sometimes they could rent out, but they don't want to deal with it. I'm telling you, they want to get another place. So those are options, but you could put rented out on there. Not the biggest fan of that. So with pre-foreclosures, you're going to get 3 huge common objections. And these common objections are going to be, number 1, hey, I'm going to get a loan mod and I don't need to deal with you. I got this all taken care of, right? My cousin Jeff, who's studying at, Coastal State, law school, told me I could get a loan modification. I'm done. I'm good. I don't have to deal with you. So that's great. Put up some statistics for the state of how many loan mods actually get accepted and actually go through. I'm telling you right now, you could offer to help the seller with the loan mod. I just think it's too much work. Let them deal with it. You can actually create a contract pending if a loan mod doesn't go through. So you can have a contract that you can actually buy it if a loan mod doesn't go through. Now, if the loan mod goes through, then that contract's null and void. You can write that pretty specifically and create your own clause with that. Have a title company help you out with that with your certain state. Every state's different, obviously. Another common objection is say, hey, Zach, I appreciate it, but, I haven't had a job in 4 years, but you know what now? I'm going to get a job now. I'm going to get a job and I'm going to fix it. Buddy, I always say this in my head, like, you haven't got a job in 4 years and now you're going to get a job? Are you kidding me? Usually that's not going to happen. They're just trying to get you out of their hair. Last one here is, Zach, you offered me $150,000 for this, or $140,000, and let's say the house worth $200,000 and it needs work. My house is worth way more. Okay, well, go list the property. Oh, I don't want to deal with a realtor, but my house is worth more. Okay. Well, why don't you just wait till the foreclosure auction? Oh, I don't want to get a foreclosure on my record. What do you want, right? I get that objection all the time, especially during this market with we deal with it. Oh, my house is worth more money. Well, go sell it yourself then. Do a for sale by owner. See what, your offer is your offer. And you want to make some money, but you don't want to screw the seller at all in the deal. So that's really something you got to understand too. Now, the next part here is, remember guys, I've said this a million times and I will continue to keep saying this, but you cannot force the seller to do something they don't want to do. What do I mean by this? If the seller does not want to sell the property to you and they want to have their head in the sand and they just want the thing to go to foreclosure, even if you know it's not in their best interest, you got to let them fail. And they'll call you back 3 days before the auction crying. And it's going to be heartbreaking for you because you know that you could have helped that seller out. Just know if you can just tell the seller all the options and they deal with it and they want to keep going through the process, you're fine. Just understand, a lot of your sellers are going to be unreasonable here, and there's nothing you can do, and it sucks. But if you have helped the seller out, you give them the options, and you try to help, that's all you can do. You're not going to get every pre-foreclosure lead, but there's a good amount that you'll get deals from. Now, this kind of brings us back to if you're doing creative financing with this, or the seller's like, I don't know how much the deal, I don't know how much the payoff is. Maybe it's a probate, and the heir has stopped doing payments because they don't have money for it. And maybe they're 3 months behind now. And you're like, well, how much is the mortgage for the house? And they're like, oh, I have no idea. You could actually do this, especially with an older seller, if you have the family's permission, obviously. But you can actually have the seller call the bank and give you temporary authorization to get the payoff interest rates. So you understand the PITI, that's a little more advanced term for like creative financing, but that's principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, costs like that. So you can get that. But you can get a third-party authorization form. Really depends. Each bank's different. So you can actually see how much the equity is. So if you have to understand, hey, is my offer even give you any equity for the house? You can understand that. I think it's pretty important. Now, this is another situation like, hey, what if the auction date is going on? And let's kind of break this down. So let's say there's an auction date already set. And let's say the seller calls you 5 days before the auction or 7 days before the auction, right? Or maybe even 3 days. I've had sellers call me the day of the auction or the day before. Or honestly, the night before at like 11 p.m., right? Always used to take those calls. Those are fun ones, especially on a Saturday night. Nothing more I'd rather be doing on a Saturday night about 2 years ago than answer a call like that and try to help the seller out. But if you're in the foreclosure auction process and there's 3 days left and you actually want to save the deal, you can actually stop foreclosure with this process in some state. This is a Hail Mary. For all my football people out here who understands what a Hail Mary is, there's like a 5% chance, 10% if you're lucky, maybe for the 30-yard line, that that's going to be a successful play you're going to do. And this is kind of the play that's going to have maybe a 5 to 10% success rate. But that means if you have 10 of these calls, like 7 days before an auction, and they're all in different states, and you do this, maybe a 5 to 10, maybe get a deal or two out of that, right? 20, you might get a deal out of that. And that's going to help you out. So this is kind of the Hail Mary situation. So I have this stinking huge camera in the way, but basically this is risky, but there's really no risk for you. This is risky if it gets accepted, but the option to stop the foreclosure is to actually sign a contract with the seller for a price, go to the bank, specifically the attorney for the bank, and basically, hey, this is a purchase and sale agreement. I don't want you to go through the whole process. I know it's expensive. Here is a purchase and sale. We can close on this date. Can we get an extension? Or, can we just get this an extension for it or forbearance for this and get it actually extended a little more? Sometimes it works. A lot of the time it doesn't. But I've had this actually accepted before, and it works pretty well. So this brings us back. So we can do that too. It's a whole different ball of wax, but you can do that. Hopefully you guys are learning a little more about this process. Next here is like what marketing channels work for pre-foreclosures. And in my opinion, there's basically 4. And between you and me, if you actually want to become successful with this, there's really 2. So number 1, you can cold call pre-foreclosures. I'm going to tell you right off the bat, cold calling pre-foreclosures stink. Okay. You know me. I love cold calling. Cold calling, I'm a huge fan of cold calling. I can tell you right now, cold calling is not good for pre-foreclosures. Just think of the people in a pre-foreclosure. They're probably not paying their credit card bill. They probably got loan companies calling them, financial service companies calling them. They're all calling them like crazy. They're probably getting 3, 4, 5 calls a day because they're behind on payments. They're not paying anything. Last thing they want to do is get a random phone call from somebody. They're probably not going to answer it. Cold calling have had the least success rate with pre-foreclosures because of this, and I just don't think they're the best. Now, the next part here is SMS text blasting. A little more success because people still read the text, and maybe you can get a hold of them there. But truly, the top 2 ones are going to be reverse drawing for dollars and door knocking. Reverse drawing for dollars is going to be the process of us actually getting a list of like 50 pre-foreclosures in a weekend, right? Getting a yellow sticky note and saying, hey, this is Zach. I had a quick question. Please call me back. And then put your phone number there. Then you're going to stick the sticky note on the front door or put it on the windshield and just walk away. You're not even door knocking. None of the stress of that. And what you do is they're going to call you back. Like they're going to give you a call back. And they're going to say, hey, who is this? What do you want? Boom. You got the seller on the phone. Perfect, right? That's the point. And because you got to get in front of these people in person so you can actually go and actually help them. And you just want to go out there and try to help sellers out. Hey, I was in the neighborhood and we were just putting them around properties around the area. We're actually looking to buy some more properties for cash. If that's something you're interested in, we'd love to help. But yeah, we're just looking to buy some houses for cash. I know people go to the I'm a debt servicing consulting company. You buy houses for cash, but I can help anyone in any situation. Well, I am looking to sell it because I'm in a situation where I want to get rid of the house. They might not even tell you the situation. It was like, oh, I know you're a pre-foreclosure. Do not say that. You will not have success. Now, the next one's door knocking. It's the best one. It's not the most fun. It's not practical. I'll tell you, reverse drawing for dollars between you and me. Door knocking, I've door knocked pre-foreclosures. They're not fun. I'm just telling you. Like it gets old pretty quick. Some people can do it. I can do it. The sticky note's better just because of how many no's you get, and it's annoying. It's a waste of time. If I had 100 door knocks, that's an all day thing. I do sticky notes all day, right? And again, on the front of the phone, I have to deal with confrontation, right? Creepy people, I knock on the door. Reverse drawing for dollars is probably gonna be my favorite one. Door knocking, if you want that, if you have 50 and I have to get a deal from that, door knocking is going to be the best. And door knocking, I've done so many approaches with it. At the end of the day, I've done it as a 18-year-old. I've done it as a 21-year-old actually, because I did a door knocking video, but I didn't get any yeses, so we didn't release the video on it. But I did like 20. But what I can tell you is, door knocking, you're just going to knock on the door for pre-foreclosure. Say, hey, I was actually in the area and I'm actually looking to buy some more properties for cash. So I was just seeing if you would look to sell this one. This seems like something that'd be pretty good. You can do that. Or, hey, Mr. Seller, or whatever, the owner here. Are you the owner of this? Had a quick question. I work for a company that is looking to buy more rental properties or buy more properties. Whatever your cash buyer MO is, flip houses. And I was seeing if that's something you'd be interested in. I can give his information. You can do that. I like the good cop, bad cop. Hey, my boss is making me door knock. And just use the cash buyer as your boss or something. So they're not like, you're just going after because like you just don't want something screwing at you. If you do it, because I'm an employee for something, they're usually more sympathetic for you than anyone else. So it's a little better. Now, reverse drawing for dollars, the sticky note's the best because it seems personal. Toyna kind of brings us up, do you leave door hangers? I want it. Door hangers seem less personal. And most people just see that as annoying marketing. I do the sticky notes just because it seems more personal and they're handwritten. That's what I've seen. Now, this brings us back to the wholesaling pre-foreclosure process. So we do the door knocking. They say yes. We get a contract signed, go to the title company, bring cash buyer through, we assign it, close. We have to understand with cash buyers is they have to close extremely quick. So you have to have cash buyers. You probably have to sell that property at a bigger discount than if it was a regular wholesaling deal. Most people understand this. But this is basically the process where, pre-foreclosure, we pull the list, we market the sellers, we get the property under contract, we work specifically with the title company. They're going to be our biggest help with this one. This is why when you're looking for a title company, you got to make sure they're okay with pre-foreclosures. We're going to sign this deal to a cash buyer, and then boom, we're going to close. That is the wholesaling real estate process, guys. Remember, for pre-foreclosures, you get the deal under contract, you wholesale to a cash buyer within that time frame, and you're good to go.